There are 10 kinds of objects sitting in ordinary basements that families routinely donate, repaint, break apart, or throw away without ever discovering what they actually have. And one of the most valuable things on this list might look like nothing more than an old stained glass lamp your grandmother stopped using 40 years ago. Most basement clutter is exactly that, clutter. I want to say that immediately. An object does not become valuable because it smells old, has dust on it, or survived 3 generations. But the basement creates a strange situation. Objects go downstairs when people no longer want to look at them. And once they are down there, they can remain untouched for decades. A trunk nobody opened, a lamp considered old-fashioned, a box of records nobody plays, a painting removed during a renovation, a clock that stopped working in 1978. And that neglect can sometimes preserve something collectors desperately want. Here is an example of why you need to slow down. In March 2026, a genuine Tiffany Studios geometric table lamp from around 1910 sold at Christie's for $19,050. Far rarer Tiffany lamps can exist in a completely different universe. Christie's famous Pond Lily example sold for $3,372,500 in 2018. Those are exceptional pieces, not normal basement lamps, but they show why identifying the exact object matters before disposing of it. I spent decades around repairs, house clearances, estate sales, and people who believed they knew what everything in their house was worth. And the expensive mistakes were rarely dramatic. Nobody intentionally threw away a $3 million lamp. They threw away Grandma's ugly lamp. Nobody intentionally donated a rare record. They donated Dad's old music. Nobody intentionally destroyed an important trunk. They painted that battered suitcase. That is how value disappears. The description comes first. The research comes second. And the money comes last. So before you book the clearance company, before somebody arrives with garbage bags, and definitely before you begin restoring anything, check these 10 categories. Because what looks like basement junk in 2026 may be something a collector has spent years trying to find. Number 10. Old trunks, suitcases, and travel cases. We begin with one of the most useful objects in a basement, the old trunk. That is also the problem. Families think of trunks as containers rather than collectibles, so they open them, remove the photographs, clothing, blankets, or Christmas decorations, and then decide whether the empty trunk is worth keeping. You need to reverse that process. Inspect the trunk before you inspect what is inside it. Most old trunks are decorative rather than extremely valuable. Plenty are worn, generic, and relatively common. But certain makers, unusual constructions, luxury travel cases, fitted interiors, famous ownership histories, and rare specialized trunks can belong to a completely different market. Louis Vuitton is the obvious name, but even there, exact identification matters enormously. Christie's says a major 2024-2025 single-owner auction series of Louis Vuitton trunks totaled about $3.5 million, and one rare 1925 hermetic copper Explorer wardrobe trunk alone realized €189,000 in 2024-9,000 in 2024. That does not mean every old Vuitton trunk is worth anything close to that amount. It demonstrates how dramatically model, material, rarity, condition, and provenance can change the result. So what should you look for? Start with construction. Does the trunk have wooden ribs, leather edging, brass corners, unusual locks, painted canvas, a repeating pattern, A fitted wardrobe interior, drawers, hangers, shoe compartments, special cases inside the main case. Now look at the hardware. Locks and clasps are often marked. Then inspect the interior. Do not remove old labels. Do not scrape away paper. Do not peel off hotel stickers or shipping labels because you think they make the trunk look dirty. Those labels can help reconstruct where the trunk traveled and who owned it. If you find a name painted on the side, photograph it. If you find initials, record them. If there are luggage tags, leave them attached. And check beneath everything. People used trunks as hiding places. Feel beneath loose lining carefully. Look underneath removable trays. Check pockets. Inspect the space behind drawers, but do not tear the lining apart searching for treasure. The lining itself may be original and important. And whatever you do, do not take an old trunk outside and attack it with sandpaper. I have seen people turn something with a century of honest surface into something that looks as though it came from a modern furniture shop. Old does not need to look new. Your basement test tonight is simple. Find the oldest luggage in the house. Photograph it closed. Photograph it open. Photograph the locks, corners, handles, lining, labels, and every compartment. Then research the maker before changing anything. The blankets inside may be worth nothing. The container may be the reason you should have opened the basement door. Number 9. Old Christmas decorations and holiday boxes. This is one of my favorite basement categories because nobody thinks about it for 11 months of the year. The Christmas box. Every family has some version of it. A cardboard carton filled with glass balls, tangled lights, artificial branches, tiny houses, faded Santas, old wrapping paper, and decorations nobody remembers buying. And because these objects are fragile, the valuable ones often disappear through accidents rather than sales. Somebody drops the box. Somebody decides the decorations look too old. Somebody sees tarnished glass and replaces everything with a modern matching set. That is where you need to slow down. Most vintage Christmas ornaments are not enormously valuable, but early hand-blown glass ornaments, unusual figural designs, old German pieces, early electric decorations, rare shapes, original boxes, and complete sets deserve a closer look. Do not think only about round glass balls. Look for objects shaped like birds, fruit, houses, animals, airships, people, flowers, musical instruments, vehicles, and strange shapes that seem too elaborate to have come from an inexpensive modern set. Early ornaments were often made with delicate materials that did not survive children, pets, storage, and decades of use. Survival matters. But here is something collectors understand better than most families. Wear is not automatically damage. A little fading can be expected. Original surface can be more desirable than a decoration that somebody repainted 10 years ago. The same goes for early artificial trees, especially unusual constructions. Old metal tree stands, glass tree toppers, cardboard village buildings, figural light bulbs, paper ornaments, cotton ornaments, and early decorative lighting. Your test is to open the holiday box on a large bed or table, not on a concrete basement floor. Handle each glass piece individually. Do not pull tangled ornaments apart by force. Do not clean silvered glass with chemicals. Do not repaint figures. And do not replace old hanging hardware before documenting it. Most importantly, keep boxes. A fragile old cardboard box with faded graphics may appear worthless, but packaging can identify the manufacturer and establish that several ornaments belong together. That is true across almost every category in this video. Collectors like complete stories: the object, the box, the instructions, the accessories, the history. Every time you separate those things, you make the story harder to reconstruct. So the next time someone says, "These decorations are ancient, we should finally replace them," give the box one careful inspection first. Christmas only comes once a year. The opportunity to identify something before it breaks may come only once. Number 8. Old bottles, crocks, stoneware, and basement jars. Now look beneath the stairs. That is where old houses often hide containers nobody has touched for years. Stoneware crocks, ceramic jugs, glass bottles, preserving jars, medicine bottles, beer bottles, ink bottles, old advertising containers, large pottery pieces that someone's grandmother used for storage. Most are not treasures, but the category contains enough rare makers, unusual colours, regional advertising, early manufacturing techniques, and scarce forms that nothing unusual should go into recycling before identification. Start with glass colour. Clear and brown glass are common, but unusual shades can deserve attention. Deep cobalt, rich green, amber, purple, black-looking glass. Then examine the bottle shape. Does it look hand-finished? Are there bubbles in the glass? Is the neck irregular? Is lettering embossed into the surface? Does it have an unusual closure? Ceramics require a different approach. Turn crocks and jugs around. Look for cobalt decoration, maker stamps, town names, merchant names, capacity numbers, hand-painted designs, birds, flowers, animals, and unusual signatures. Regional pieces can be valuable because collecting can be intensely local. A crock made by an obscure pottery that operated for a short time in one town might mean little to the average person, but a great deal to someone building a collection from that region. Condition matters, but resist the temptation to repair things yourself. Do not glue a ceramic crack before evaluation. Do not paint over chips. Do not scrub glazed surfaces with abrasive powder. And never run old glass through a dishwasher because it appears dirty. Some surfaces can become cloudy or damaged. Keep detached pieces. A lid sitting on another shelf may belong to the crock you found underneath the stairs. A stopper may belong to a bottle in another box. A ceramic lid you assumed was a coaster may complete an unusual container. Your basement test is to group containers by material. Glass with glass, stoneware with stoneware. Then photograph every side. Look underneath. Measure the height. Record decoration and markings. And if you find something advertising a local business that disappeared generations ago, research the company as well as the container. Sometimes the object is common. The name printed on it is what makes it scarce. Number 7. Old toys, dolls, and childhood boxes. Now we come to the boxes that produce the strongest emotions. Childhood toys. A basement may hold the toys of 3 generations at once. Tin cars from a grandfather, a doll from a mother, action figures from the 1970s, construction sets, board games, train sets, toy soldiers, robots, space toys, doll houses, and boxes that have not been opened since the children moved away. The first mistake is assuming that because something was made for a child, it was cheap. The second mistake is assuming that because millions of children owned one, yours must be valuable. Both ideas can be wrong. Most old toys were produced in large numbers. Many are inexpensive. Collectors pay premiums for specific versions. Early production, rare colours, unusual accessories, short-lived designs, dealer samples, promotional issues, factory mistakes, unopened packaging, or documented connection to somebody important. The extreme end of entertainment memorabilia can reach astonishing numbers. In July 2026, Heritage Auctions reported that the original screen-used Luke Skywalker lightsaber from The Empire Strikes Back sold for $3.75 million. That is a historic screen-used prop, not an ordinary childhood toy, and you should never use such a result to value a mass-produced toy version. It illustrates why provenance, the exact story of what an object is, can completely transform value. For ordinary homes, the practical lesson is much simpler. Keep the accessories, the doll's shoes, the tiny weapon belonging to an action figure, the instruction sheet from the train set, the transformer, the track, the cardboard scenery, the box, the plastic insert, the catalogue, the little piece everyone thinks is meaningless. Collectors trying to complete a set know how difficult those small pieces are to find. Do not restore toys before researching them. A vintage toy car with worn original paint is not automatically improved by a new paint job. A doll does not necessarily need replacement hair. A tin robot does not need polishing. A train locomotive should not be connected to a random power supply. And old battery compartments need to be examined carefully before installing new batteries. Your basement test is to resist nostalgia for 5 minutes and become an investigator. Look underneath the toy. Look behind the doll's neck. Check the base of the figure. Inspect the inside of the box. Record mold numbers, manufacturer marks, dates, and country information. Then, put everything back together. What matters is not that the toy was loved. What matters financially is which toy it actually is. Number 6. Vinyl records and old music collections. People now know that vinyl can be collectible. Unfortunately, that has created another problem. They assume every old record is valuable. It is not. A basement containing 200 common records does not automatically contain 200 treasures. The value usually hides in details. Pressing, label, matrix numbers, catalogue number, country, cover variation, promotional markings, misprints, condition, and provenance. A famous album can exist in dozens of versions. One may be common, another may be rare enough to make collectors compete aggressively. For example, John Lennon's own numbered copy of The Beatles, commonly called the White Album, sold through Heritage in 2024 for $162,500. By comparison, an early numbered US pressing sold through Heritage that same year for $5,250, and a sealed vintage Let It Be pressing sold in May 2026 for $325. Same famous band, completely different objects, histories, and results. That is the lesson. Do not search only for the album title. Inspect the physical record. Look at the label. Look at the run-out area near the center. Check the sleeve. Look for inserts, posters, photographs, stickers, fan club materials, promotional sheets, and anything marked as a demonstration or promotional copy. Do not throw away sleeves because they are torn. Do not replace them with clean, modern sleeves and discard the originals. Store the record properly, yes, but keep every original component. And never clean a potentially valuable record with household glass cleaner. Handle vinyl by its edges, store it vertically, keep it dry. Basements create a serious problem here: moisture. If you find mold, do not bring a contaminated collection directly into your living space and spread spores everywhere. Separate affected material carefully and seek appropriate preservation guidance for anything that appears significant. Your basement test is to identify the unusual records first: colored vinyl, picture discs, very old labels, private pressings, promotional copies, records with unusual covers, anything signed, anything accompanied by letters or photographs, and albums that look different from every other example you remember seeing. Most will not pay for your retirement, but the difference between a common pressing and an important one can be hidden in details small enough to fit beneath your fingertip. Number 5. Old clocks. An old clock has one major disadvantage in a family home. When it stops working, it becomes furniture. And once it becomes furniture, somebody eventually carries it downstairs. Mantle clocks, carriage clocks, wall clocks, tall case clocks, advertising clocks, desk clocks, mechanical clocks with elaborate cases, and strange little machines nobody remembers how to wind. This is a specialist field. The maker matters enormously. So does the movement, case, dial, complications, materials, originality, and whether the pieces were born together. Christie's clock department highlights important makers including Thomas Tompion, George Graham, Daniel Quare, and the Nib family, and notes that its overall auction record for a clock is £8,980,500 for a Fabergé masterpiece sold in 2007. Again, that is the absolute top of the field, not evidence that an ordinary basement clock is worth millions. Even objects that look like modest travel clocks can become serious collectibles when the maker and mechanism are exceptional. Christie's has documented a complicated Breguet carriage clock from the early 19th century that survived in the same family for more than a century with its original key and fitted box. So what do you do when you find one? Do not start by winding it. Old lubricants can harden, springs can fail. Parts may already be under tension. First, photograph it. Then, look at the dial, backplate, movement, inside the doors, underneath the case, and inside any fitted box. Never throw away the key. Never throw away detached pendulums. Never throw away weights. Never throw away a wooden bracket because you think it is unrelated. The clock may be incomplete without them. Do not polish brass until it shines like a hotel doorknob. Original patina may matter. Do not repaint numerals. Do not replace old hands. And do not allow an inexperienced repairer to replace original mechanical components simply because modern parts are easier. A proper specialist can tell you whether restoration is sensible. Your basement test is to put every clock accessory in a small bag or box next to the clock it belongs to. Then photograph the movement before anybody touches it. A clock that has been silent for 40 years can wait another week while you discover who made it. Number 4. Old advertising, store displays, and signs. Basements are often the final stop for things removed from family businesses. A grandfather closed a grocery shop. An uncle owned a service station. Someone worked at a railway office. A family restaurant remodeled. The useful equipment disappeared, but the decorative things came home. Advertising clocks, cardboard displays, tin signs, porcelain plaques, countertop figures, thermometers, old product cabinets, store fixtures, promotional calendars, and signs that were too interesting to throw away, but too outdated to display upstairs. These deserve attention because commercial material was designed to be temporary. When a promotion ended, most displays were destroyed. When a brand changed its logo, old signs were removed. When a shop closed, fixtures were scrapped. Survival creates scarcity. But this market is full of reproductions. A rusty sign is not automatically old. A faded advertisement is not automatically original. Some reproductions have been deliberately aged, so do not rely on rust alone. Examine construction, fasteners, printing technique, material thickness, back surface, mounting holes, and how the object actually entered your family. That last part matters. If your grandfather owned the shop shown in an old photograph and the same advertising display appears behind the counter, you have better evidence than someone saying, "I think this is old." Keep photographs together with objects. Keep invoices, keep store stationery, keep employee badges, keep catalogs. The basement may contain the documentation that makes the object understandable. And do not restore an old advertisement because the colors look dull. Do not repaint letters. Do not spray a clear coat over the surface. Do not replace damaged backing until it has been photographed. Your test tonight is to ask one question about every advertising object. Why did our family have this? The answer can be more important than the object itself. Number 3. Letters, military papers, photographs, maps, and historical documents. At number 3, we leave metal, wood, and glass behind. And we enter the category families destroy fastest: paper. A basement box marked old paperwork is dangerous, not because everything inside is valuable. Most ordinary household paperwork is not collectible. But historically important letters, signed documents, diaries, military archives, early photographs, maps, manuscripts, scientific notes, musical documents, and material associated with important events can have a serious market. Sotheby's actively handles historical letters and manuscripts and notes factors such as age, rarity, provenance, condition, and authorship when assessing them. It gives the example of a George Washington letter that realized $100,000 and has sold major family archives and correspondence by significant historical figures. Individual letters can be extraordinary. A 3-page illustrated letter from poet Arthur Rimbaud to his sister sold at Sotheby's in 2018 for €405,000, more than 4 times its pre-sale estimate. But your basement does not need to contain a famous poet for paper to deserve investigation. Consider letters from soldiers, prisoner of war material, photographs of local businesses, old town photographs, construction plans, diaries, ship documents, immigration records, factory photographs, unusual maps, concert programs, signed photographs, early aviation material, political campaign items, scientific correspondence, and photographs with people whose names are written on the back. Context matters. A photograph of an unknown man may have little market value. A photograph with a name, date, location, regiment, and letter explaining what happened suddenly becomes a historical record. Never separate envelopes from letters. Postmarks matter, stamps matter, addresses matter, dates matter, and the envelope may prove where and when the letter traveled. Never remove photographs from old albums unless necessary for preservation. The arrangement itself may tell a story. Never laminate old paper. Never repair it with ordinary transparent tape. Never write notes directly on it. If you need to identify something, use a separate archival safe sleeve or note. Your basement test is one of the easiest in this video. Before throwing away any old box of paper, look at every item quickly. You are searching for signatures, dates, unusual letterheads, military insignia, official seals, famous names, historic locations, ships, aircraft, factories, sports teams, and events that can be researched. Paper looks fragile. That is exactly why its survival can matter. Number 2, paintings, prints, and pictures nobody likes. Number 2 is the stack leaning against the basement wall. You know the stack. Frames wrapped in blankets, old landscapes, dark portraits, watercolors with foxing, prints nobody wants in the living room, pictures taken down during a renovation 25 years ago, and the family's opinion is usually settled. They are ugly. Good. Ugly is not a valuation method. In fact, the pictures stored downstairs are there precisely because somebody stopped liking them. That means taste has already filtered them out. Now you need evidence. Most old paintings are not masterpieces. Many are decorative works with modest value. But identifying an artist requires more than looking at the front for 5 seconds. The first place people look is the lower corner for a signature. That is useful. But then turn the picture around. The back can contain gallery labels, exhibition stickers, old inventory numbers, dealer stamps, canvas suppliers, handwritten names, auction labels, transport labels, and inscriptions. The back of the painting can sometimes tell you more than the front. Do not remove those labels. Do not replace the frame yet. Do not throw away an old frame simply because it is damaged, and please do not clean the painting yourself. A damp cloth seems harmless until it begins lifting old paint or varnish. Do not apply household furniture polish. Do not spray water. Do not scrape dark varnish. Do not try to reveal the real colors. Conservation is a profession for a reason. Prints deserve similar attention. Check margins, watermarks, paper, signatures, edition numbers, blind stamps, and whether a print appears to be an original impression rather than a decorative reproduction. Do not trim margins to make the picture fit a nicer frame. Those margins may contain exactly the information a specialist needs. Your basement test is to photograph the entire picture in good natural light. Then photograph each corner, then the back, then every label. Do that before removing anything from the frame. And if one picture seems much older, stranger, or better made than everything around it, do not assume it is worthless because nobody in your family wanted it. Taste changes, attribution changes, markets change. The question is not, would I hang this above my sofa? The question is, who made this and what exactly am I looking at? And now we arrive at number 1. Number 1. Old stained glass lamps and Tiffany-style lighting. This is the basement object I want you to treat with the most caution. The old lamp. Especially a heavy lamp with a bronze-looking base and a shade made from many individual pieces of coloured glass. Because Tiffany-style and Tiffany Studios are two completely different sentences. Millions of decorative lamps have been made in the Tiffany style. They can be beautiful, they can be old, some can have value, but they are not automatically Tiffany Studios. Identification depends on construction, markings, design, glass, base, condition, and expertise. And genuine examples can vary dramatically in value. As I mentioned at the beginning, a Tiffany Studios geometric table lamp dating to around 1910 sold for $19,050 at Christie's in March 2026. Christie's also lists examples such as a butterfly lamp that sold for $768,600, while the rare pond lily lamp reached $3,372,500 in 2018. Christie's notes that only a small number of the pond lily model are thought to survive. Now think about how many old stained glass lamps have been moved to basements because somebody thought they looked unfashionable. That is why you do not guess. First, inspect the shade. Look at the glass. Is every piece identical and flat? Or does the glass show different colors, textures, thicknesses, and variations? Look at the solder lines. Look at the construction. Then examine the base. Genuine Tiffany pieces can carry markings, but markings alone are not proof because reproductions exist. Photograph them. Do not polish them away. And never assume the shade and base originally belonged together. Old households mixed pieces. A damaged lamp might receive a different base. A shade might be transferred. That affects evaluation. Condition matters, but perfection is not required. Christie's guidance on Tiffany lamps notes that some cracks can be expected in century-old leaded glass shades, while originality and the quality of the shade and base remain important considerations. So if you find cracks, do not panic, and do not repair them yourself. Do not apply modern adhesive. Do not replace glass pieces. Do not spray paint the base. Do not polish old bronze until it becomes bright gold. Do not rewire it yourself simply to see whether it works. And never carry a heavy stained glass lamp by lifting it from the shade. Support the base and the shade separately when appropriate. Your final basement test is this. If you have an old stained glass lamp, photograph it before doing anything. Whole lamp, shade from above, shade from below, base, bottom of base, sockets, switches, finial, every marking, every damaged area, and any paperwork found nearby. Then compare it with documented examples from respected auction houses or contact an appropriate specialist. Do not compare only by appearance. Two lamps can both have dragonflies and flowers and still belong to completely different worlds. That is the principle behind every item in this video. Exact identification beats excitement, every time. Final message. So now we have walked through the basement, the trunks, the Christmas boxes, the bottles and crocks, the childhood toys, the records, the clocks, the advertising, the papers, the forgotten paintings, and finally, the old lamps. And perhaps you noticed something. Almost none of these objects became interesting because somebody carefully displayed them. They became interesting because somebody forgot them. Basements are accidental archives. Things move downstairs when they stop fitting the life happening upstairs. A new lamp replaces an old one. Digital music replaces records. Modern luggage replaces a trunk. A renovation removes a painting. Children grow up and leave their toys. A business closes and somebody brings the old signs home. Then 20 years pass, then 40, then 60, and eventually another generation walks downstairs and sees only clutter. That is the dangerous moment, because the person throwing something away usually does not know what the original owner knew. They do not recognize the maker. They do not remember where it came from. They do not know why grandfather kept the box. They do not know why grandmother refused to replace the old lamp. And once those connections disappear, identification becomes harder. So before you clear a basement, do 3 things. First, photograph before cleaning. Take pictures of the object exactly as you found it. Take pictures of markings and labels. Second, keep related pieces together. The key with the clock, the box with the toy, the envelope with the letter, the shade with the lamp, the inserts with the record, the papers with the trunk. Third, research before restoring. Restoration can be wonderful when done correctly, but cleaning an unidentified object is not research. Sanding it is not research. Painting it is not research. Throwing away the damaged parts is definitely not research. And remember something else. Do not confuse asking prices with value. Anyone can put an old lamp online for $50,000. That does not mean somebody bought it. Look for documented auction results and comparable examples. Compare the exact model, condition, size, materials, age, completeness, and provenance. The extraordinary prices mentioned tonight belong to extraordinary objects. Your basement probably does not contain a multi-million-dollar Tiffany lamp, but that is not the point. The point is that you should know what you have before you make an irreversible decision. Because once an original finish is sanded away, it is gone. Once the paperwork enters the trash, it is gone. Once the old shade breaks, it is gone. Once the family history is separated from the object, recovering it can be impossible. So before the dumpster arrives, before the donation truck backs into the driveway, and before your most efficient relative comes downstairs wearing gloves and carrying garbage bags, spend an afternoon looking properly. Open the trunks, unwrap the lamps, turn the paintings around, read the backs of photographs, check the records, look beneath the clocks, and open the boxes nobody remembers packing. Most of what you discover will simply be part of your family's past, and that has value of its own. But every once in a while, the object everybody considered outdated turns out to be the one thing you absolutely should not have thrown away. Tell me in the comments, what is the oldest thing currently sitting in your basement? An old trunk? A box of records? A clock? A painting? Or perhaps one of those stained glass lamps nobody has switched on in decades. And subscribe, because next time we are going somewhere even more dangerous for forgotten collectibles, the shed and backyard storage. Old garden tools, cast iron furniture, vintage planters, weathered signs, architectural pieces, and objects people leave outside for decades without realizing collectors are searching for them. Until then, remember the rule: don't clean it, don't restore it, and don't throw it away until you know exactly what you have.